what's up?
Oh, did we start? Oh, what up, man? What's going on? I like the setup. This is a nice setup.
Thanks, bro.
And you got Air One coffee. You guys are making money. Oh!
I spilled everywhere right away.
You just spilled $28. This coffee is so expensive.
Adam W. is one of the biggest stars of his generation and has quickly become the king of comedy on the internet. With over 55 million collective followers, he received over 14 billion views in 2023 alone and is currently on track to reach over 30 billion views in 2024. He is one of the fastest growing comedy stars on YouTube, gaining 18 million subscribers in under 2 years. His unprecedented growth, relatability, and quality of work earned him a spot in Rolling Stone's inaugural Top 20 Creators of 2023. He was also named Forbes' Top 50 Creators of 2023 and Forbes' 30 Under 30 Class of 2021. His success story has been mentioned by Fortune and has led to a year-long ambassadorship with Instagram, Old Spice, T-Mobile, and campaigns with companies such as Disney, NFL, Pepsi, Walmart, and Activision. This is Creator Convo with Adam W. Well, thanks for driving up the hill.
Yeah, this actually wasn't far. Well, I mean, I said I was going to be here at 12, but then I got here.
Yeah.
I got here late.
12:20.
But technically, I got here early because
Technically, we said 12:30,
yeah.
so.
This is a dope setup, though.
Thanks,
a lot
man.
of plants.
Yeah,
Of
maybe
plants.
too many plants.
What about that Christmas tree? Was that from last year or you put it up early?
It's from last year. I don't think it's ever coming down.
Smart.
Nor do I know where to put it, even if I were to take it
It's
down.
the only fake plant in here.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah. I mean, we've known each other a little while.
Yeah, long time. Like what? 10?
Close
years?
to 10 years.
10 years.
I remember the first time I think we hung out or stuff was you were friendly with Alfredo Flores, right?
Yeah, he was actually like the first person that I knew when I moved out here. I knew him before I moved out here, but
Yeah.
he like introduced me to a bunch of people. I got to meet a bunch of people that I'm friends with today. I met you through him.
Are you friends with Quincy also?
Yeah, who I also knew before I moved out here.
Yeah.
So really those two guys, and then the guy that I was working for as well, Kenny Hamilton, which you know Kenny.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So those are the only three people I knew.
Really?
And my cousin was actually living in Long Beach. He just has a regular job, and that's who I was living with.
And what were you doing at the time?
So before I moved here, I had just finished college, and I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do with my life?
Yeah.
And I decided like, maybe I should be an actor. Like my sister was that one that actually came up with the idea. She's like, you should be an actor. You've always been funny. And she's like, move to LA. And I was like, okay.
Really?
I just did it. Never been here before ever. And Kenny and Alfredo, they helped me figure out how to work for Kenny and be his assistant. So I was I was his assistant, and I was also just when I got here, I started doing valet. I was like doing valet for like events and stuff.
And how did you get into, because we met at 1600 Vine.
Yeah.
I think Fredo or Quincy or someone, like you'd come in and out and stuff. But yeah, I think at that time you were maybe getting into the sketch comedy scene. Were you friendly with like Batch and stuff, or how did you start doing comedy stuff?
Well, at first I was just trying to do it. I knew who everyone was, right?
Yeah.
And I was trying to make my own videos, and I mean I was saying I want to be an actor, but I never actually acted before. Like I was like, because like for like the first year that I moved here, I was trying to get like acting gigs, but I didn't get shit. And I didn't have the money to go to acting class at the time, so I was like telling people I want to be an actor, but I haven't done it ever. And then it wasn't until I started to make my own stuff or try to make my own stuff that I actually was like, oh shit, this is hard. Acting's not easy.
Yeah, no.
And writing's not easy, and coming up with the sketch is not easy, and filming something, and then editing. I think a lot of people don't realize how much of a process this thing is from start to finish. From like ideation to then putting it on a piece of paper, to then producing it, to then executing it on set, and then filming it right, and then taking it in post, and then having to edit. It's like, bro, it's a whole process.
It's like a mini production every single time. Yeah. So what got you, obviously your family was like, oh, you should be an actor or whatever, but were you always passionate about like the comedy side of things, or what?
No, I wanted to play football. I played football in college. I wanted to go to the NFL. Wasn't good enough. But comedy was always something that I just did naturally. I never thought like, oh, this could be a job. I mean, I obviously knew there was comedians out there and like, but I never for some reason was like, oh, I could do that or want to do that. And then, yeah, my family was like, oh, you should go, like, be an actor, do comedy. And then when I got there and I was making no money, and they're like, you should go get a real job and quit. So, yeah, no, I never grew up was like, I'm going to be a comedian one day. I never thought of it.
Never had a vision, dream board, like, I'm going to be a comedian.
No.
That's funny because... Yeah, I think too, once you're around certain people, were you always like the class clown or were you joking on the team and stuff?
I was like the funniest guy on my team, always in high school I was the funniest. It was just something that I never had to try to do. It was easy to make people laugh.
Yeah.
But it was just like, what I thought was cool was football. I was like, I want to play football. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't until after like college that I was like, maybe, I could be a comedian.
Was Vine the first platform you were posting on, or where?
So actually, a lot of people are always like, "Oh, I love you on Vine." I was actually never on Vine.
You were just in sketches with other people. Yeah, I was just with
all the Viners, like post Vine.
Yeah.
But people always come up to me like, "I love you on Vine." I'm like, "Oh, thanks, bro." Because I'm back like, well, technically speaking, I wasn't on Vine. I started back in
so you never had like a Vine account or anything?
Nah.
Really?
Dude, honestly, if anybody comes up to me and says they know me from anywhere, I'm like, "Yeah, thanks, bro." Bro, a lot of people come up to me like, "Oh, Anwar, I love you." I'm like, "Thanks, bro."
You just say your
Anwar. Your story, I'll share it. I get Anwar and Darman all the time.
That's funny.
Yeah, they actually call me Darwar.
You're just like a mixture. You're a Pokemon.
Friends, they call me freaking Darwar
evolved.
Because I'm pretty much Anwar and Darman combined into one person.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So was Instagram and TikTok and YouTube? I guess that was the first platforms that you were starting to post yourself.
Instagram, and I think it was. Back when it was like 30-second video. Remember? People don't know. It used to be like 15-second video. Mm-hmm. Then they like bumped it to 30. And then it was like finally a minute. But yeah, I think it was like you can only do 30 seconds.
Yeah. And where did you learn the chops of coming up with an idea and then actually like was it just being around like Batch and Anwar and stuff like that? Or?
Well, when I got around them, I started to learn way more. But there was a big chunk of time where I was just by myself trying to figure it out, and I would like watch all of Batch's videos. I'd watch all of Anwar, Daystorm, everybody who was like popping at the time. I would watch all their videos and study their videos and like what kind of jokes are they making, how are they cutting angles, are they doing one takers, are they doing coverages like singles? Like I'm just analyzing everything, right? And even today, like I always tell people like, all right, if you want to be a beauty influencer, you want to be a comedy influencer, go find the 5 best people right now who are making the most money, getting the most viewership, and not copy what they do, but be inspired by what they do, see what kind of ideas they're doing, see how they're filming it. Because literally what I did, like all the information, all the data was in front of me for anybody to analyze. So I would just watch their stuff. What are they doing? How are they doing it? And I would try to replicate that, obviously in my own like originality, right? But I would try to replicate what they were doing. So that's basically how I started. I had that example of them.
Yeah, it's cool too, because just from living at 1600 and being around everyone when they were shooting Vines or whatever, I think what people don't realize is how quick and sometimes spur of the moment from like ideation to execution actually is. Even the amazing thing about Batch still is we'll be hanging out, and the first time he even came over the house, he was just like joking around that there was nice stuff in the house. He's like, "What time do you go to sleep?" Like making a joke as if he was gonna come. He's like, "Oh, I'll be back tonight with my boys." And he's like, "Oh, let's shoot that right now."
Yeah, bro.
You know what I mean? He'll be right away.
Bro, this guy's an anomaly.
Yeah.
Like he will literally. I'm scared to even say jokes around him because he's like, "I'll shoot it right now." I'm like, dude, what? You don't want to plan? You don't want to do anything? Like he's just down and shoot always. He'll bang out like 5 ideas right now if you say a joke, and he's like, "Oh, it's funny. Let's shoot it." All right, camera's up. All right, you're gonna say this. You're gonna walk in. Someone who's not even an actor, like, "Yeah, you jump in this. Be this." So the way his like brain operates is insane. It's crazy how like everyone has their own thing and people operate differently. Like even for me, like in zooming out, I do everything fast in comparison to like a TV production or movie production. But I still am considered maybe a slower creator because I like to get the props, I like to produce it, I like to do it correctly. But even with that, I'm still getting it out in 1 day, 2 days, which is like no time in comparison to a real production or somebody who's doing a longer form project.
Yeah, it's cool too because I notice patterns, and it's even Chris Rock with his stand-up. He does this thing where he'll repeat a premise over and over again. Where he'll be like, whatever the premise is, like women can't go back in lifestyle, and he'll like repeat it, and then he'll say,
"Hey, what do you mean by that?"
It's not my joke, but he'll say it's like his bit is where the premise is like, oh, once they get accustomed to a certain thing or whatever it is, and then he'll almost like that's his thesis, and then or his hypothesis, and then he'll
Yeah.
prove it. And with you, I noticed too, you'll have like a tagline almost, or a thing where you'll say over and over again, and that'll be, I guess, the bit or whatever the joke is. Did you always know that was, hey, I'm gonna have like a tagline of whatever the joke is for it, or the concept for this video is, or how did you fall into that?
Yeah, so I think a big thing on the internet is like, what is your style, right? And when I was making videos, I would like try to almost come up with my style before I put the video out, or while I was filming it. Like, oh, I gotta have a bit. I have to have like a style, right? And everything I tried would flop. And then I was like, all right, let me just make what I think's funny, whatever, right? And how that came about was I had just did a video. I don't remember what the first one was. It was like, I think it was like, it might have been like I was in the car with somebody and I was like, oh, thanks for the ride. And they're like, yeah, anytime. And I was like, oh, really? Anytime? And they're like, yeah, anytime. And then I show up to his house and I'm like, oh, can you do this for me? You said anytime. Or, hey, can you take the trash out for me? Whatever. I don't forget what the bit was. But then I'd be like, you said anytime. Where I kept repeating this, right? And I just tried it. And everyone commented anytime, oh my God, I love this, I love this. And I was getting so much good feedback from them. I was like, all right, let me just try a different phrase. And then I tried a different phrase. And it does two things. One, it builds engagement. People comment it. You could do so much more outside of that. You could make merchandise out of it. You can, it becomes a thing, right? And when people see you, they're like, oh, it's the anytime guy. Or like for a while, like even to this day, I used to have like a thing where I say, if you don't mind. People still to this day say that. I don't even make those videos anymore. But people to this day still say that. So it was cool. I don't do it as much anymore, but it was definitely like a moment of time for me where like, wow, it really worked. And I think a lot of things with videos, even to this day from when I first started to now, is I'm always experimenting shit. Like, oh, this bit is working. Oh, let me do a part 2 to this, part 3 to this, part 4. People are starting to fall off. People don't like it as much anymore. All right, let me transition to something else. But a lot of creators, they get stuck in a bucket and they're like, oh, this bit keeps working, and they run it through the fucking ground, and it's like, it's not funny anymore. You gotta elevate to the next thing. So like the catchphrase stuff, it worked so well for a while, but then it started to get old. So I was like, all right, I can't do catchphrases as much anymore because it's just gonna be the same bit over and over and over again. And it's not like, a movie or a show where it has a season, or you might see it once every couple years. For me, I have to post every other day. So it's like a bit can get old really quickly. You know what I'm saying? So like it's important to have the awareness of like, okay, this is working, let me keep doing it. But then also having the awareness of like, shit, like I should probably move on from this joke because I don't want to get pigeonholed as this guy.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because you were even saying you have to post every other day, or when did you start to become aware of, okay, obviously the more I'm posting, the better I'll be in the algorithm or whatever. When did you start becoming more, I guess, like stringent on, I need to have a schedule. This is the day I'm posting. This is the day I'm shooting. Like, do you write out your ideas, or, if you have a catchphrase or a word that's like comes to your mind, what's your like pre-production process now for doing content?
I've actually never heard that word stringent. That's a good one.
I don't even know if I used it correctly.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounded good. Are you doing like one of those vocab like
yeah, just a word a day?
Yeah, I need to get on that. I kind of zoned out after you said that word.
You're like, in your head, you're like stringent. Like Zach Galifianakis and The Hangover, numbers are starting.
That was a good one. I'm going to use that for sure. I didn't get stringent until
strict.
Until I think I was only able to do one a week at that time, because like, keep in mind, like when I first started doing it, like I filmed everything, I came up with everything, I still come up with everything now, but I edited everything, I went and got the props, I did everything from A to Z. So like you can only do so much as one man, right? Like creating the whole thing. So like I really only could do maybe 1 max 2 a week, and I just didn't have the brain power, the creativity. I was just learning this thing, like, to come out the gates for somebody who's never created before and say, yo, make a video every other day. Like, it's impossible. You have to really like work your way up. So I think it was like when I got to around like maybe 500,000 followers, which was like in 2017. I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing full time. I think at that time I had quit my job too. I was doing it full time, and I was like, all right, I need to put together like a schedule of how to do this, because there was a lot of other creators at the time, especially like post Vine, where people are putting out videos every day, right? And even if my video is great, it doesn't matter because this person is posting 5 and people are forgetting about my video and it gets drowned out. And I noticed too, like creators that were posting more were getting more reach, gaining more followers. So it was kind of like a do or die. I was like, I have to put out more content if I want to compete with the big dogs. But at the same time, you know, you fall into the issue of like quality versus quantity. And I'm like, I don't want to sacrifice quality for quantity. Like I'd rather have 2 good videos, 2 really good videos a week than 5 mediocre. But I was like, there's got to be a way I can do both. So I kind of just figured it out. And now I have like 4 guys full time that kind of help me create everything. But even when I started, like when I went to like I think maybe 3 a week, no matter what, I'm hitting 3 a week. I'll never go back down. So like I did build it up slowly to where it was like possible to do, but I never wanted to say, hey, I'm gonna put out 4 videos a week and then now, oh, I have to cut back and do 2. So like it's totally fine to say, hey, if you can only make 1 video a week, make 1 a week. And then if you're ready for 2 and you start making 2 a week, it has to be 2 a week. You can never go back down again. You can only increase. And then I got to a point where I was just doing, you know, pretty much every single day. Sorry, I actually did decrease to every other day, but only for algorithmic purposes because I'm giving a lot of information here. I found out that I saw, because I like study like my analytics all day, insights, and I noticed that when I was doing every other day, I was actually getting higher engagement versus every day.
Why do you think that was?
It's tough to say. I don't really know. I think it just allowed like that extra day gap, allowed that video. For example, let's say I post something, right? And it was on your feed. 2 days could go by and that video could still keep popping up on your feed, then making you watch it, making it shared, etc. Right? But if I posted that video and you saw it on your feed and then the next day I post something else, that previous video might not show up on your feed, kind of stumping it in views.
Yeah.
That's my theory. I could be wrong, but I just noticed every other day I was getting way more viewership versus every day it was slightly less. And only something I would notice.
Yeah.
Not like someone, a fan or something would notice. So I bumped every other day and then I've been on that schedule ever since.
That's cool. It's also crazy how the algorithm's always changing. So I guess you're, like you said, you're a student and you're always looking and you're trying to gain insights and be like, okay, how is this performing? Whatever. How much does the algorithm dictate to you how much you're posting, what type of content you're posting? Or is it like 50-50 for you? Like, all right, I know I want to shoot this type of content anyway. I'm going to shoot and post it. Or are you cognizant of, okay, this is what's happening with the algorithm, so I got to adjust based on that?
Yeah, I mean, the algorithm changes constantly. I think just in general, whether it changes or not, I have such a variety of content I do. I do like stitch content. I do some stuff that's just visual. I do some dialogue-based stuff. I do like... There are certain types of videos that are going to bang no matter what the algorithm is. Like if you do something that's relatable enough, like you're on a plane, there's a crying baby. Everyone relates to that. And if you make that short, sweet, and like action-packed, it doesn't really matter what the algorithm is. It's going to go.
Yeah.
So like... in my head, if I post a couple videos that are like, they only did like a couple million each, I'm like, shit, I need a 20 million video. I need a 30 million video. So it like really inspires me to like, man, let me write a freaking banger right now to kind of get my page back to pumping big numbers. So that's kind of how I look at it. But algorithm definitely changes. I mean, it's tough. I think for sketch comedy, it's like an anomaly. It kind of works everywhere and people always want to laugh. But if you're doing a specific style of content, it's tough because when the algorithm changes, you kind of have to really shift your content. But like I said, if you do sketch comedy, I don't think I feel the effects of that as much as somebody who might do like TikTok dances or like a certain style of Get Ready With Me or whatever, you know, where they have to really do a true shift in content.
Yeah, relatable comedy is just such an interesting topic in general because I feel like it's the one thing that everyone like can relate to. That's why it's relatable comedy. What was your inspiration for like comedy shows or like stand-up comedians or whatever? Were you into like Seinfeld and Friends, or were you more into like Martin, or do you watch a lot of stand-up, or did you try stand-up yourself, or do you do stand-up? Like where does that?
I actually did try stand-up like 12 years ago. Which was like so random. I know I said I never wanted to be a comedian or whatever, but one of my boys, he was like, because I was always like the funny guy in the group, and he was like, man, you should go up. I'm hosting this thing, like, or it actually wasn't even him. It was his cousin, his older cousin. He's like, he hosts this comedy show. Like, I dare you to go up and like write material. Let's see if you can make people laugh. And I was like, fuck it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Whatever, right? So I wrote like First of all, I never did like open mic, nothing. I just jumped on a show, and it wasn't like a big show, but it was like some basement in New York.
Really?
And it was like maybe like 50 people in there, right? And I was like, I'm gonna write like 7 minutes of jokes, and I'm just gonna go up. So I go up, and I'm like doing this bit, and like for 4 minutes, complete silence, not a word. And like people don't realize when you bomb at a comedy show, it's not like, oh, it just sucks for me. Everyone's uncomfortable, right? Like people are just like, this is so like. It's really tough to watch. And I have like all these jokes written, and like the jokes have like part 2s, part 3s. And I'm like doing like the first part, and no one's laughing at the first, second part. I'm like, I can't continue the joke. Like if they're not having this, I gotta bail. So I was like, I just kept bailing out of jokes. And like 4 minutes in, it's like, it's really uncomfortable in there. And I'm like, fuck, I gotta like do crowd work or something. I gotta like ask somebody in the crowd. So there's this guy in the front row. And I'm like, hey, what's up, man? Like, keep in mind, I haven't made anyone laugh ever, right? Like, the whole show. And I'm like, hey, where are you from? I have no clue what I'm going to say back to him. I have no response, nothing. And I'm like, where are you from? And he's like, I'm from here. I'm like, oh, you're from this basement? Stupidest joke. I get a laugh. Like, everyone laughs, right? And I'm like, oh, shit, I think I, like, won the crowd over. So I go back to my material, 0 laughs. Oof. So the whole show, all I got was that one laugh from that. So then I was like, man, I'll try it one more time. I went back another night, and I opened up the show trying to recreate that moment. And I went up to a guy, like, right when I got up there. I was like, hey, where are you from? And he's like, Minnesota. I'm like, fuck.
You're not from this basement?
I was like, oh, basement from Minnesota? No. And then ever since then, I was like, dude, this is the hardest thing ever.
It's hard.
But, to answer your question, which that didn't answer your question at all.
It was a good tangent.
I watch tons of stand-up. I watch Martin, Fresh Prince. I watch Curb. I watch Seinfeld. I've watched pretty much everything. Anchorman is probably my favorite comedy of all time. I've pretty much seen everything. So I don't know what the question was, but yeah.
But yeah, just like relatable comedy, because it's great because like you were saying, there's a crying baby. Or I even love like your Stitch comedy, like you're saying now, where there is a TikTok or whatever, someone has these crazy new water shoes, and you're like, that's ridiculous. Let me just put a goldfish in my and just make a joke of it. So, how are you getting new material?
Yeah. So this was actually something I learned the hard way. I would always, like in the beginning when I was shooting, I was like, all right, what do I think's funny? Like I think this is funny. I think this is funny. And a lot of times, like, it would be something that was funny amongst my friend group. But I'm not thinking, like, let me take myself out of my shoes and put myself in the audience shoes. Like, if you didn't know who I was, you've never seen me before, do you get this idea? Let alone is it funny, but do you get it? Like, when you stub your toe, everyone stubbed their toe before. Everyone knows the excruciating feeling, right?
Yeah.
But if I do something about, like, when you sit on someone's couch and a certain part of their couch is broken, and I'm doing a whole joke off that, how relatable is that? You know, it's not really that relatable. It's relatable to the guy who has a broken couch, but like on a grand scale, it's not. So a lot of times, like what I specifically think is funny, I don't always shoot because I'm like, oh, this is just something I think's funny. I always try to put myself in the audience shoes. What does everyone think is funny? Because ultimately my goal is not to make a small group of people laugh. It's to make everybody laugh, make as many people laugh as possible. And I can only achieve that if I'm doing something that's relatable on a global scale. And that goes like outside of like, I don't really even do much stuff in like American pop culture. There's like bits that like, you know, sprinkle in some of that, but I'll never do an idea just based off that because I have such a global audience. Like if you're in Australia, would you get this? So I'm always thinking that. And then as I start to go back, just because I've watched a variety of so much comedy, you know, Curb Your Enthusiasm is very similar to that kind of show. Seinfeld is very similar to that kind of show. So that's kind of my thought process now. So I'm always like, what's relatable versus what do I think is funny? Which is maybe not the best thing to do, but at the end of the day, like I said, my goal is to make as many people laugh. So I have to have that mindset.
Yeah. It's also cool too because the way you deconstruct something, but then I find it's always like an escalation. You'd be like, okay, so here's the one thing that's kind of funny, and then it progresses to this thing, it progresses to this thing, and ultimately then it reaches this absurd level. So yeah, what are some examples of that for people that maybe haven't seen your stuff? Because like I just, and you're crazy with props too, which is the other thing that you're talking about, why it may take you a little bit longer than other people, is because you're like, okay, I actually need to find an ATM, or I need to find, you know, so what is it? How do you work your way? Like, oh, what would be the funny next progression of this?
Yeah. So I guess since we talked about the stub your toe one, I did that idea.
Yeah.
My thought process first is, okay, what is my relatable hook, right? And I'm gonna establish that in the first 5 seconds, right? So like, boom, stubbing your toe is a relatable hook, right? Now everyone's on board with this guy stubbed his toe. It's an excruciating feeling, and now I'm showcasing how bad it hurts, and I'm exaggerating that now. But now that I've established the main idea and it's relatable, like the umbrella is there, I can do the craziest things now. I can escalate it to extreme proportions because it's all in that framework of the feeling when you stub your toe. So I think in that one, like, I stub my toe, it goes in slow-mo, and my girlfriend's reacting, and she's like, what the hell? And I'm like screaming, and then I think paramedics come in, and it's all slow-mo, and they're like resuscitating me. Obviously, that doesn't really happen, right? But it's extreme, right? And then like the next beat, like there's a guy in the background playing like a violin and like playing a piano, and they're playing this sad song, and I'm like still screaming. They put like a neck brace on me. And then I think like I start to have a seizure at some point. And then like I end up passing away, and my soul comes out of my body, right? And then my soul stubs his toe, and then it starts back over. So like, because we're all in the framework of the feeling of when I stub your toe, that's shareable enough to people like, dude, this is what it feels like. Obviously, this is not what happens, but this is what it feels like when you stub your toe. So like, as long as, you know, the framework of the idea is relatable and you establish that at the beginning, you can then freaking go to space. You can do whatever you want. It's like whatever's funny and extreme at that point. But that's kind of how I would go about escalating something.
Yeah. It's hilarious, and it's also shareable, which I think is part of the reason why now so many people have seen your content and why it gets such good views is because, even Instagram has been saying recently, it's like metrics now is how much people share it, how much they like message things to their friends. And it's, if you take a really relatable piece of content and you're like, oh, this is what it feels like to stub your toe. This is what it's like if a baby's crying on an airplane or whatever it may be. It's just, are you thinking about that too? It's like, this is something that people would share.
Yeah, a lot of times I'm like, oh, would somebody send this to their sister? Or would they send it to their friend? Like, oh my God, this is so you. At the same time too, like, don't get me wrong, you can do niche content or something that might not be as relatable, and it can go crazy viral. It can become a trend, right? So I would never encourage somebody to not do that, right? The difference is, and this is my opinion, you can do something really niche, and I think you have like a 2 out of 10 chance that it goes. Whereas I'm playing a numbers game. I know I'm like a 9 out of 10 with this idea it's gonna go. I know if sometimes I'm like 10 out of 10 positive this is gonna go. And you can do a niche piece of content that can technically or possibly get even more views than that like 10 out of 10 relatable concept. But your chances of that actually going, it's like one of those things like if it goes, it freaking goes. Or if it doesn't, it doesn't. And it's like you have a 2 out of 10 chance, in my opinion. Yeah. So like doing niche content is cool too, because when you have something pop off, it really pops off. It can be like a thing that's posted across everywhere, complex, this, that. Like it becomes a viral trend. But you know, it's a numbers game, right? You have to make 20 of those for that chance of it to go maybe once or twice. Yeah. Whereas for me, my viewership is going to stay consistent because I'm playing that relatable game.
It's cool too because your family was like, oh, you should be an actor or whatever. So you're technically acting in your own role and pieces that you're creating, but you're also, like you said, you're writing, you're producing, you used to edit. I don't know if you still do anymore, but you at least knew every portion of it. So is the next goal, and I mean, I know we did a short film together and stuff. Are you trying now to like develop longer scripts? Are you trying to do more movies? Like where's your head at with everything?
Yeah, I mean, first off, thank God I never booked anything because like I just wanted to be an actor, and if I would have booked something and who knows whatever I would have become an actor, I would have never been able to learn the process of creating something. And I actually, from doing it, I actually am in love with the process of creating something more so than acting. Of course I want to act and be and stuff, but I'm totally cool with just producing something or just directing something. Really any aspect of the filmmaking process. I mean, I wouldn't want to edit
that's
but I definitely know how to edit. But I've fallen in love with the process of making something. So yeah, it is on like I have a couple movies that I'm like trying to write out. I mean, I more so have premises right now and I need to write those out, but man, time is my biggest enemy. I need to find more time to really dedicate to that because I don't want to half-ass anything I do. You know, I want to really put the time in to be able to sit in a room and write out the movie. And I might write out the whole thing, be like, this whole thing sucks ass, and I don't want to do this idea. But I won't know until I write it out. So yeah, down the line, like for sure, I want to make some of the best comedy films. Maybe a show. I'm not as passionate. Like if there was an idea that was meant to be a show, sure. But I think the top of my list is to make a comedy film very similar to the ones I grew up watching, like Anchorman or like any of the Judd Apatow films or any of those kind of films. I feel like it's been a while since we've seen like a fucking really funny comedy film, just from start to finish with like just bits. Like even Harold and Kumar. Have you watched that?
Mm-hmm.
I remember. I think I counted like in the first like 30 minutes of the movie, there's like 26 bits, and not all of them, they're random bits, and it's all in this journey of like the storyline of the movie, but these bits don't necessarily have anything to do with the progression of the story, but they're so funny, and they were so conscious of having 26 funny bits in the first 30 minutes. So like I really want to do that, where you watch a movie, a comedy film, where I feel like the ones back in the day where it's just action packed with comedy bits. You know what I'm saying? There were so many comedy bits where, like, you know, any of the Adam Sandler films, they're so quotable. Like the homeless guy in Big Daddy, like he's just his own storyline that kind of ties into the movie, but like you don't really need him, and like he makes the film. Like Adam Sandler's like notorious for having guys in films like that have one line that end up being the most quotable line, like the "You can do it."
Yeah.
That guy, like, he has nothing to really do with the film.
Yeah.
But anytime he comes on, like people talk about that guy. So really recreating a film like that just has so many bits in it.
That'd be super cool. I just watched an interview with Vince Vaughn where they were asking, why do you think there aren't those kind of comedies anymore that were like the early 2000s, like you're saying, that people loved, like Happy Gilmore Wedding Crashers, Dodgeball, stuff like that. And Vince Vaughn was saying that these studios are now, they're only doing stuff with like known IP. So, you know, they're only going to do something if they know it's like Barbie, if it's already an established IP that it's going to, you know, because they're going to spend millions of dollars to make it, and they don't want to run the risk of whatever. But he was saying that he thinks there's going to be a resurgence of those type of comedies. And the good thing about there being so many streaming platforms and stuff now, you know, whatever, Apple could take a chance of just making one of those comedies, or Netflix, or whatever. There's so many different platforms, but hopefully we get to see some more of those comedies where it's just like, hey, this is funny just because it's funny. You don't need to have a known IP. Or it makes me think of now these, you or say Batch or Hannah or whoever, you guys are now your own kind of IP or your own brand because you are recognizable. So hopefully that could allow, you know, a streaming service or a production company to be like, okay, we're willing to throw some money behind this because you are the IP. We know that you have an audience or you have a character, you know, because even I'm sure you like Saturday Night Live and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel like Adam Sandler was able to do some of this stuff because maybe he played one of those characters on Saturday Night Live, and like we know it hit when it was on SNL. So we'll do a risk and we'll see if it'll work as a standalone movie. Do you like doing characters, or is that stuff?
Yeah, I love doing characters. The thing is, like, I don't get to showcase, and I always tell people too, like, you only see 10% of my comedy online because there's just rules and check marks that I have to hit in order to do stuff. Whereas, like, when you do a longer form piece of content or a movie, you have the ability to build out a character. You have the ability to do maybe a more niche joke that's in a bigger framework, right? But you don't have that ability when you're doing a minute. Right, you just got to be quick, bang, slapstick comedy. So yeah, those are all things I want to do, and that's why a movie sounds so enticing. And you know, just the world I come from, the world you come from, like we get shit done on our own. I don't wait for anybody. I want to make something, I make it. So same with the movie, right? Like, sure, I would love $5 million from Sony, but if they don't, I'll put up my own money because I believe in it, and you know that's what I work so hard for, and I've made content for years to be able to make that kind of money. I'll just make it myself. So for me, it's not even money or, you know, maybe someone necessarily believing it to give me a chance to make it. I can make it myself. My biggest enemy is time, right? I have to be able to properly write the script out, put it together, film it. Like that stuff takes so much time, right? Like to perfectly make it the way I want to make it. So what I'm fighting against is time. But at the same time too, if Sony wants to give me $5 million, I'll take it. But I am also not afraid to gamble my own money because I believe in what I'm making. And like I said, we come from the world of like we don't wait for people, we get stuff done. So you know, once I'm able to kind of open up that time, it's something I'm really like passionate about that I'm gonna get done, whether somebody gives me the money to do it or I put my own money up, whatever the case may be. And I truly believe that the product will prove its worth. You know, like, You know, I'm not making something to just make it. I'm making something to be the best.
Yeah.
And when I put that in front of somebody, they'll see that. And, you know, when it goes out to the world, you'll see that result. So that's kind of where I'm at with that whole process.
That's super cool. And hopefully you get to make something
And we
soon.
might work on it together.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. How, I guess on that topic, like collaboration, how important collaboration is. Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Don't DM me.
No, collaborations are super important. I think it's such a good way to steal each other's audiences, collabing with people. Yeah, I think another big thing about collabing is when you do collab with someone, it is important to be in the right position to collab with somebody. And what I mean by that is like I've collabed with someone else. Like for example, when I collab with Anwar, right? He has so much great content on his page and vice versa with me that like, let's just say you didn't know us in tandem or just whatever. You might see him on my video and then go to his page and be like, oh my God, there's so much funny stuff on here. Follow, right? Whereas if I collab with somebody and they didn't really have any content, you're not reaping the benefits of that collab because everyone will click your page, but then they'll be like, there's nothing on here. Why would I follow, right? Mm-hmm. Like to make someone follow is a big decision. And that comes with what kind of content you have. So like collabing is very important, but it isn't only important if your page is stacked with original content for someone to now discover your page and want to follow it. But in general, for me, like collabing is great. Like it's such a great way to just, like I said, steal other people's audiences, get put in front of other people. You know, you see great like what's the word? Shit, I need that freaking app yet.
All right,
whatever the word is, you see great like return.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Return on like if you were a comedy creator and I was a comedy creator, like you're gonna probably follow me if you're already following me for comedy, right? But it's also cool if I did something with like a beauty influencer and like, you know, I get their audience, they see my audience. You know, everyone likes comedy, and you don't know who's following you that wants to know more about beauty or etc. So it's cool to definitely collab with people and definitely collab with the diverse, different creators that are diverse.
Yeah. And are you trying to do stuff with not comedy people? Like you were saying, like a beauty thing, or your friend group in your circle is kind of like comedy creators. So I assume most of the time you're just like collaborating with like people who are in a similar space, or do you sometimes keep an eye out, or you're like, oh, I could do something with this person, or...
No. I should take my own advice.
We just see you in like
not really,
a
not
fight.
at all, not at all. Actually, not even the slightest bit. But a lot of times, I have collabed with other people that are outside of the comedy world. But it's almost like if it happens, it happens, or if we meet and we do it. But I do need to be more intentional about it. I mean, look, I'm not perfect. There's definitely things that I say that I need to practice what you preach. But at the same time too, like, dude, I mean, even just try to do this, like every day I'm filming, every day is something. So it's like so tough to prioritize things and add things in. So a lot of the collabs I do are more like natural collabs. Like if they showed up to a shoot and I met them, whatever, we do something.
Or just people you're friends with. It is cool that like the friend group is just people that are already doing the same thing. So you're naturally going to be at Hannah's house or whatever, or... Yeah, and also if you need actors in your sketch or whatever, it is people that are already doing similar things so you can springboard off. Another thing that people behind the camera might not realize is from living and being around the same space as you guys, it's when you're at one person's house, say you're at Hannah's and you're shooting one thing, you're oftentimes shooting 3 or 4 things at once. Like you'll shoot one of your ideas, you'll shoot one of Hannah's ideas, you shoot one of Batch's ideas, and then all of a sudden like they'll get put out within the same couple of days or same week. And I don't even know how intentional that was to begin with. Is that something that's intentional now where you're like, okay, I have an idea. We like, all right, we have these 3 ideas, so we'll schedule this amount of time. Or is it a lot of the time you're hanging out, and while you're hanging out, you're like, oh, maybe we'll knock out these few things.
Yeah, I think I'm probably the worst planner of everybody. Like I shoot morning of. I come up with the idea morning of, and then I produce it, shoot it, get everybody, and post it by 2 p.m. Whereas all the rest of them will take like a day, 2 days in advance and like really properly plan. I wish I was doing that. So like for me, if I'm showing up, I need a post right away. So I'm like, oh, let me shoot this. And then afterwards, I'll shoot anybody's thing. Or a lot of times like, no. The answer's no. I rarely ever show up and I'm like, oh, I'm here. Maybe I should come up with an idea. Like everything is like, I wait till last minute.
Really?
And then I do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Yeah, I guess everyone has different posting schedules and different cadences and how they do it. But a lot of times, yes, when we're all together, like everyone is getting the benefit of like, oh, hop in my video, hop in this, hop in that, you know?
Yeah, I feel like everyone has a similar mindset of like, let's maximize what's happening right now, you know? Like if we're shooting one person's thing, we might as well all try to figure out a way to maximize the time in us being together.
Yeah, mine is like, let's wait till last minute and then stress everybody out and then like scream and figure out how to get props and then get whoever we can for the video, shoot it, and then post it.
They're like, I have a dinner at 7. It's like, dude, I just need an ATM machine.
Dude, we've got some crazy props, man. And you know what's crazy? I pay so much more for what the prop is because of how last minute I get it. Like if I need a coffin in 30 minutes and they can't get us the coffin, I'll pay you double for the coffin. And then I'll get it. Or if you can't do it, we call this next guy, and they know we're desperate and they'll be like, oh, the coffin's actually $3,000. I'm like, fine. Because it needs to get up. The post needs to get up. But if I would have just planned one day in advance, I would. But it gets tough. Even when you bank content and you get ahead, like, let's say you get ahead, I'm posting every other day, like, you don't get that much cushion. If you're on 5 videos ahead, I take like 2 days off. Shit, I'm back in the square one. So, like, it's tough to block shoot or get ahead.
Yeah. Do you think, because a lot of the times the guests I have on here, I go, how important is it living in LA for whatever you're doing? And for some people, they're like, oh, I can do it wherever or whatnot. But I feel like specifically maybe for what you're doing, living in LA is super beneficial because like you're saying, how many other places can you, if I need a prop, you know what I mean? How many prop houses are there? Yeah. So do you think you could do what you're doing elsewhere, or for you is LA's the spot?
I think for my content, no freaking way.
Yeah.
I was in France like recently, or this was last year when I did this video. And I needed to get like motor oil for a video. Like I wanted a bottle of motor oil. And I didn't have a car, obviously, because I was in France. And I called an Uber. And I was like telling the guy like, hey, I need to get like motor oil. Do you know like what store I could go to get motor oil? He's like, yeah, I know for sure. And he takes me to like a Best Buy. I'm like, no, I need like motor oil. And he's like, well, before I even took me to Best Buy, he's like, oh, but he's like, you need it for your car? You don't have a car. I'm like, no, I know it's not for a car. It's for a video. And he's like, yeah, but you need motor oil. You have no car. I'm like, I know I don't have a car. It's for a video. And like, I had this conversation for like 30 minutes, and then he takes me to Best Buy, and then I get back and I'm like, no, this is a Best Buy. I need like motor oil. And he's like, yeah, but you don't have a car. I'm like, I know I don't have a car. It's for a video. And it just shows that like, in LA, nothing's weird. Nothing is weird. People are on the sidewalk shooting, right? But like in other places, people aren't as accustomed. People are staring. People don't understand that and every year it gets better, right? Like content creation is getting more global and more people are seeing it. But for what I do, no way, man. It's so tough to get access to things. And is it possible? Sure, but you're adding so much time onto the process. As well as like here, there's actors, there's just everything. This is the movie capital
sets,
world.
like if you want to film inside of an airplane, or you need a hospital set, you know what I mean?
And maybe my stuff's like niche, right? Like the average creator is not really maybe even doing scripted comedy content, like a lot of like lifestyle creators or whatever the case may be. Yeah, you can do it other places too, but my argument to that is, sure, you can probably film the content wherever and it'd be just as good. The difference is the network in LA, you know, like you're around the top content creators in the entire world. So you're going to collab with people more. You're going to be in front of much more brands. You're going to be in front of much more opportunities. Like, dude, the amount of times where I was like doing something and someone was like, yo, if you can get here in 30 minutes, you get to meet this person or shoot with this person or meet this brand rep for this company, and I can do it. If you lived in, you know, Arkansas, you can't.
Yeah.
You know, you'd have to plan a day to get there. So I think just being in the city, you get opportunity that you would never get anywhere else because of the environment, and it's easier to shoot, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I guess it just depends what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
yeah, if your goal's to act and all these other things, then this is kind of the place for it, at least for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's not to act, even like if you were just like a, let's say, get ready with me influencer, and you were just, or lifestyle content.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, you can do the content elsewhere and it'll be fine, but it's the opportunities of being in front of different companies, working with brands, working, you know, going to headquarters of like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. It's all here, right? There's some in New York and kind of dispersed, but like it's just the network. It's the network that's the benefit.
Yeah, for sure. Do you how much are you thinking about the different platforms now? Because like you were saying, Instagram used to be 15 seconds and it was a square, and like Vine was 6 seconds, and TikTok might be banned in 2 months, and just these random things.
Damn, it's been we have 2 months left already?
Think so. Yeah.
Sheesh, that went quick.
Yeah, TikTok. But because a lot of the stuff that you shoot is vertical, right? So are you conscious of like, okay, I need to shoot horizontal as well because I'm going to post stuff on YouTube, or have you kind of gone away with that?
So long form is like a whole different process that I have, and I'm actually banking content for long form because I'm not as pressed to post it, and I am trying to block shoot that. But everything else goes in vertical, and mine's kind of a cheat code, man. Like, it works everywhere. So as long as I just keep it vertical, like, what performs well, that video is going to perform well everywhere. Like, let's say like a video does like 50 million views on IG, it's going to do similar on YouTube, it's going to do similar on TikTok, it's going to do similar on Facebook, similar on Snapchat. Like, it'll do very well. So like, I make one video, I don't change it at all. I make that one video and then I post it across platforms. And like I said, sketch comedy is kind of a cheat code. Like, it's going to perform well everywhere.
Yeah.
And if something performs bad on one platform, it's probably going to perform bad across platforms. Like, it's all like pretty similar. Every once in a while, I'll get shocked. Like, something might get 40 million on IG and it only does 2 million on YouTube, which 2 million is still a lot, but a ratio of 40 is a big difference. But for the most part, I'll just make one video, post it across, and if it does well, it'll do well everywhere. If it does bad, it'll do bad everywhere.
Do you have a preference on vertical versus horizontal? Like, in an ideal world, do you wish stuff could be posted horizontal, or you enjoy, since you know it's being consumed on a phone, and you're fine with shooting everything vertical? And are you shooting everything on a phone, or do you ever use like a...
So I was doing camera stuff. I still do it here and there, rarely, but I feel like phone videos perform better.
Just feels more organic.
Feels more organic. I mean, like, if you're shooting with an iPhone, like, it's the best quality you could get, especially like...
Shots fired at Android users.
No, I mean, yeah. Well, iPhone, I say, is for sure the best camera.
Yeah.
But also, too, like, unless you really know what you're doing with the camera and you know how to, like, really adjust the camera and, like, get the proper lighting, like, you're better off just doing something handheld on an iPhone that has stabilizers built into it, and like, it's just easier for any beginner. But and on top of that, like, I've just noticed just through the years, like, don't get me wrong, I have like tons of camera videos that have performed really well. At the end of the day, the content is what matters.
Yeah.
That's 90% of if a video is gonna go good or not. How good is the video? And then there's a 10% of what was it shot on, how did you shoot it, when did you post it, etc. But iPhone's just easier and it performs better from what I've noticed. So every once in a while I dabble with the camera, but all you really need is an iPhone.
And shooting on what you're going to end up watching it on is just super convenient too.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
you can watch it right back in the camera roll and be like, it's not like you're going in and color grading and doing anything crazy. And even audio, you're doing straight from the phone.
And the audio on the phone is great. Like, I recommend anybody, even at my level, I'm shooting on a phone. Like, everyone, most people shoot on a phone. If you're doing horizontal content, like long form content, camera for sure.
And that's why you need to block time out for your YouTube stuff, is because it's a whole different
setup, as well as scripting, right? Like, we're doing a 4-minute video, 5-minute video. Like, you add 30 seconds to a video, that could be 3 scenes, 2 scenes. Like, those are whole completely different setups. Like, it takes a while. So, long form from the traditional world is considered not 5 minutes. It's considered way longer. But for us, like, long form is 5 minutes. And that process just takes much longer. So, like, from the scripting to the shooting to the editing, right? Like, you have to kind of block shoot that.
It's funny because when, I guess, like, Shot Studios was in its heyday, remember, everyone was trying to get like one YouTube video up a week at least, you know what I mean? And people had their own dedicated little production teams and stuff like that. You think that's because of the pandemic and stuff like that, that's kind of, people have strayed away from focusing a bit more on the YouTube side of things. I guess it depends on the creator too, right? But do you think you'll continue to just focus on the more short form content for the foreseeable future? Do you think, like you're saying, you're going to take a pause and be like, all right, if my goal is to make a movie, then maybe I need a pause for a month and just write or just shoot this proof of concept or whatever?
Yeah. So my thing is, there's a lot of creators that'll like do short form content and be like, okay, now I want to do long form, and they just do long form or vice versa. I never want to stop making short form content. So that's why this whole thing has taken me so long, because I want to do both at the same time. And then once I get my long form content going, I'm not going to stop my short form content, like the consistency of posting. And then once I go to start making my movie and writing that out, I'm also still not going to stop both of those two other verticals. So it's just a matter of making more time, like figuring out, like I need 25 hours in a day. I need 26 hours. Like I'll sleep less. Like I need to make that time, but I'm not going to stop the other things. And I think, the way to achieve that is just hiring more people, which I have been, training more people. Like if I can figure out how to get these two verticals to kind of run on their own with like minimal time for me, which sounds like an impossible task, but it's not. Once I really figure that out, then I can then open up the time to write my movie. But no, I don't plan on pausing any of those. I plan on doing it all simultaneously.
How is your like recharge time? Because like you're saying, it can be exhausting, especially if you're like, okay, I'm gonna sleep less in order to continue to do this stuff. I know you're been working out a ton. You're on a meal plan, stuff like that. How much do you set aside for these? And what are your kind of recharge practices, or are they lacking right now? Like, how do you?
So I started, but before this, I never took any like. There's no break. There's no off time. I've actually never taken a vacation, nothing. Like I've been to amazing places because of work or because I had a shoot there or whatever the case may be. But like this year specifically, I started taking one off day a week and like force myself to take an off day a week. And I've actually noticed that I'm actually even more productive. So like I'd rather have like 6 really productive days and 7 mediocre days. So that's kind of my recharge. I take like one day off. It's a random day depending on what day I could do. But I always make time for one day, at least one day a week, to just like fuck off and do nothing. You know?
Yeah, what do you do? Just sleep?
I do nothing.
Netflix?
I like doing nothing.
Really?
Like I'm a fan. Like I want to do nothing. Like I can literally just sit on a couch like this.
Really?
And just do nothing. But I mean, also like sometimes I go golfing. Sometimes I'll like, I don't know, hang out with a girl, go to something, go to a movie,
restaurant stuff.
Yeah, like restaurant stuff. Just do something where I'm not like trying to think of an idea, or not trying to work. And I mean, I'll still be on my phone like here and there, and stuff. But yeah, one off day a week. It's like I'm happy I started doing it because I feel so much better overall. Like I think this is the first time where I feel like completely balanced. Where like I'm working out, having fun, I'm working. Doing everything kind of all in one. So yeah. Tanning. People don't know this guy. He looks tan right now on this camera, but his back is pale. Yeah. He only tans the front of his body.
That's a reoccurring joke with me because he would come over to tan and cold plunge and stuff like that. And he will actually flip over and I'll just tan one side. So if you see me from the front, I'm tan. You see me from the back.
It's two different races. He's a completely different race on the backside.
I'm young Michael and then old Michael.
He's Michael Jackson. Yo, it's crazy.
Both versions.
It's crazy. It's like cooking a freaking burger on one side. He doesn't flip. He never flips.
Yeah. People don't see me from behind.
I mean, yeah.
It's funny, but yeah, I mean, that is, the recharge time is, I don't know, at least for me, is so important, or else I just don't feel inspired to do anything. I know it's like another thing I like asking people is the art and commerce thing. How aware of you of, hey, I need to pay bills, I need to make money. Are you purposely posting on platforms that you know will get you revenue? Like how much is your revenue from like ads and stuff, or just working with brands? Or because I'm sure at the beginning you probably weren't just making money from these comedy sketches, right? Yeah. So,
for a while.
So how were you always like, okay, this is how I can ultimately make money? And obviously as the numbers go up, you can incorporate brands and stuff like that. But where's your brain at with all of that now?
Yeah, I think obviously money is a big part of everything that I'm doing. At the same time too, you do have to have a balance where like you can't sacrifice too much of the art just because of money, right? Mm-hmm. And there's so many, people always ask me too, like, oh, did I miss the wave? Is it too late? Like today is the best time to be a creator. Like, and tomorrow will be the next best time, because you got to think, like, when we started, you had to be a big creator to get a brand to come on and pay you. Now there's creator funds, there's monetizing not only long form but short form content. You can go live and make money. I mean, there's literally like over 40, 30 different ways you can actually make money as a small creator. Like when I first started, if you told me I could even just make $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, that would have been enough for me to quit one of my jobs, and focus more on content creation. Whereas back then it was like either all or nothing. Either a company comes in and gives you a nice check, or you just get nothing. And usually those big checks are going to the bigger creators. But because the creator economy has opened so much, and now every advertiser is on social media marketing, and it only gets bigger. And I think don't quote me, it was like in the high billions was spent in ad revenue last year. It's going to double that next year. So I am very intentional about it. But at the same time too, I'm not chasing every single opportunity to make money. Like, I'm doing 3 things that I really like, and I'm going to make as much money as I can off those 3 things, but I'm not going to just start doing live because there's a paycheck for it. Unless I actually want to do live. Because that's how you get burnt out. Like, just chasing, this is the new thing everyone's doing, or this is the new thing everyone's doing. I'm going to do this because this is making money. So, yeah, money is a big part of it, but at the same time, I'm going to maximize the most amount of money I can make off the things that I want to do, which is creating sketches. So that's as far as I go thinking into it. But at the same time too, I have a great manager and a great team that are doing some of this thinking for me, so I can just focus on the creative, because ultimately all I want to do is think of ideas. I don't want to do anything else. And when you're a creator or when you're starting out, you have to wear multiple hats. It's not like Hollywood where, hey, I want to be an actor and I'm talented at acting, and now Hollywood is going to handle the business part, right? Like, if you're making content, you have to be Hollywood. You have to then figure out, how am I going to make money off this? Okay, how am I going to scale this? How am I going to find places I could be making money where I'm not making money? But at the same time, how am I going to be creative? So it's not like just being a creative. It's being a creative and being a businessman or businesswoman, and like really being able to play both. And you see that, right? There's tons of creators that are like super, super talented, super creative, but they're not making that much money. And then you have creators that are making a lot of money and they have like a great entrepreneurial background, but their content is like, you're just like, it's not the best content, right? And you're kind of just working the system and making money. So it's really rare to find someone who does both. So I think the point that I'm at now, I'm blessed enough and worked hard enough to have a team that kind of handles more of the monetary stuff. And of course I'm involved in it to a certain degree, but I want to do as least as much of that and just focus on creative, because that's like the one role I haven't really been able to hire someone for. Like, I can hire people to film, I can hire people to be an assistant, I can hire people to do lighting, sound, etc. But the creative is one thing that's been tough to hire someone for. So the more time I can open up my brain for that, and the less time I can worry about the other stuff and make sure those other things are still, being done as best as they can, is like the dream scenario for me.
Yeah. No, that's great too, because if you just are constantly worrying about money, like you said, then it's taking away all the passion and all the ideation of the stuff that got you here in the first place. Which you will,
by the way. Like, you will worry about money, because it's like, even if you're putting out videos, at one point I was like getting like tons of views, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting tons of views, but like, I can't afford this anymore. I'm like buying stuff, returning shit. I actually got banned from Home Depot for that. I got banned from Home Depot in North Hollywood. I used to like go get props from Home Depot in North Hollywood, and like for a year I was just buying shit and returning it. I didn't keep anything, right? And I think I bought like 4 lawnmowers from there. And like one of the times the guy was like, hey, did you use this lawnmower? Like, we'll know if you used it. And I'm like, nah, I didn't use it. It's like, we can check like if you put gas in it or not. Like, they have no clue what I'm using this for. Like, I'm using it and just putting a sound effect. I'm not putting gas in it. And they like looked up my history, and they were like, you've never kept anything. Like, you shot there for like a year and returned it because I didn't have the money to keep it, right?
Yeah.
And they banned me from Home Depot, North Hollywood.
That's crazy.
I was so bad, but I started going to Lowe's, and then started doing the same thing there. But
that brings us to today's sponsor, Lowe's. No, I'm just kidding.
But my point is, like, even if you're getting views, now there's creator funds and stuff like that. But back then I was getting crazy views. I was making no money. And I'm like, dude, how much longer can I keep this up? And of course it was stressing me. I was like, how am I going to I can't keep going if I'm not making money. I love the content I'm making. I'm getting good views, but if I'm not making money, I only have like another month in me. So it does get stressful, and you definitely do have to consider that in the content creation process of like, okay, this is great. This is a dope idea, but how am I going to make money?
Yeah. But ultimately what you put in, you'll eventually get out. Sometimes it's like patience is your best friend, It can see, you just have to keep pushing through and being like, I love it. Numbers will come eventually. The money will come eventually. It's about that uphill.
But so how long can you go? Because some people, like, they can't actually like keep going because it costs money to make content, right? So it's tough. But the dope thing about today, and why I say today is the best day to become a content creator, is because there are tools for micro creators to make any kind of money.
Yeah.
Even if I was making $200 off this, I'm making something to fund something, you know? And that's just so available today for any creator. So that's why it's the best day to become a creator.
Yeah, that's great. I guess one of the last questions I'll ask you is, how aware are you of the thought of like legacy, of like what, and what would you ultimately want your legacy to be? You know, like at the end of the day, 50 years from now, whatever it may be, like what do you want people to say about you and what do you want to leave behind?
For me, funniest person to ever live. Yeah, that's what I would want my legacy to be. I just would want people to remember me as that. In terms of leaving behind something, I mean, even like some of the comedians I watch now, like there's like pieces of like timeless work that like doesn't matter if you watch it like, 50 years from now, it's still funny. And a lot of the content that I make, I do keep that in mind. I mean, it's not as important of a thing, but I do think like I repost a lot. I gain so much new followers that when I repost, a lot of times the repost does just as well. But I'll repost something from 3 years ago, and it's just as relevant or hits just as hard today. So just with any of the content I make, like it's nice to do something that's so broad that hits, in any timepiece, and can always be funny. So really just making content like that, whether it's short form, long form, movie, whatever the case may be, and just making people laugh.
You just make timeless stuff.
Content.
Doesn't matter if you watch it today or
Exactly.
20 years from now. Yeah, my For You page, something with Robin Williams came up, and it's just like that feeling I get from seeing Robin and like his work, and I'm sure that would be nice.
Same thing with like
yeah.
Jim Carrey. Like watch any of his stuff, dude. That stuff's still funny today.
Yeah. And what is it about laughter that you find is so important, and like comedy that's so important?
I think it's the best feeling you could give anybody. I think laughter, it also lets you like analyze things from a different perspective, like if someone makes fun about a topic, or makes fun of something, it kind of allows someone who might be really stubborn to see it in a different light and be like, oh, that is what I'm doing. I don't know. I think comedy is just like one of the most powerful tools in life. Even if you're not making content, just making people laugh in real life. You're giving somebody a great feeling. And a lot of times, even what I've experienced, a lot of people who watch my stuff, for a long time, I was like, I'm just making stupid, funny videos. But there are people who are actually going through dark times, and they're like, oh, the 1 minute I watch your video, I feel better, right? So hearing stuff like that is like always dope. But I don't know. I just love laughing and making people laugh.
Yeah,
and I've said that in like the most serious way possible. but this is like the most serious I've ever been. This whole time I've like been so serious.
I was like, I'm waiting for him to break into
me, like everything I do is like nothing serious and everything's a joke.
I know, this is the deepest conversation me and Adam have ever had.
I feel weird. This is the longest I've ever been serious for.
You're just looking at the camera like,
yeah.
Hello,
Laughter
hello,
is what
darkness,
I love to do.
my old friend.
Yeah, no, I mean, no one's ever really asked me. It's a weird question to ask.
I'm sorry, dude.
I love making people laugh. It's as simple as that.
It's the unifier. It's the thing that can, even if, like, I've laughed with people that have different political views than me, different religions than me, whatever, but there's something just universal. If you can laugh, it lowers your guard. It's the most human thing. I think there isn't like you're saying, it's the best. They say laughter is the best medicine, but it's true. It's like if you're laughing, it gets rid of every worry and ailment and all that stuff.
Even if you fake laugh, it feels good. Like, like that, I feel better.
Yeah, I feel great.
And it wasn't even a real laugh.
I was so depressed 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, even fake laughs, man. Like, if you can't get a real laugh, get a fake laugh.
Yeah, guys, just go fake laugh at people.
Anything, smiling. There was like a thing I saw, like an Instagram post. Like, if you smile, like it automatically does something with like your.
It like tricks your brain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that's it. That's a good note to end it on.
Yeah. Tricking your brain.
Yeah, trick your brain, trick or treat. Well, thank you for coming.
Of course, man.
Good to see you.
I get to take this coffee home with me.
Yeah,
right?
you can
this
keep
is
it.
This Air One coffee. If you don't know Air One, this coffee was how much? This was like $48.
No, it was like 8. I don't know.
Even 8, dude. 8's a lot of money for a coffee.
Yeah, I feel cracked out.
Yeah, and it's strong.
It's very strong. But yep, I'll see Adam in like 2 months.
Yeah. Next time we do this podcast.
Yeah. All right, everyone.
All right,
see you
peace.
soon. Peace.